Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Perlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Perlman.
Hello. My guest is Ray Hiemstra. He is the Associate Director of Programs for Orange County Coastkeeper. He is a member of the California Water Monitoring Council and a member of Newport Bay Management Committee, as well as being an activist with the Sierra Club. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm certainly looking forward to finding out what your nonprofit organization has been doing to preserve and protect and restore coastal and inland water quality and habitat. You're in Orange County, Southern California, not Orange County, Florida. Are the issues the same when we're talking about preserving and protecting our coasts and our water quality?
Well, in a lot of ways it is. We have 5 pillars of our work: education, advocacy, research, restoration, and enforcement. And all of those are pretty much the same wherever you're at, in that those are the issues that need to be addressed. People need to understand the issues because some of them are simple and some of them are more complex, what they can do about them. And then there's research. We need to learn more always about what's going on in our environment and how we can do things to help it out. And then restoration activities are very important. We've made mistakes in the past and damaged a lot of habitat or destroyed some of it, so we need to help bring that back. Advocacy is huge. There's a lot of government agencies and others making decisions, so there needs to be somebody that's paying attention to that and helping represent the public as advocates. Lastly, there's enforcement, which is very important. We have several attorneys, and we need to stand up for our environment when it's necessary.
Most people want our oceans, our coastal areas protected, and yet they don't realize that what is happening maybe 50 miles upstream at the river is going to affect the coast. The pollution coming down, the lack of silt to create the sandy beaches. We have to really look at large ecosystems, don't we?
Yes, we really work on a watershed basis. So Orange County Coastkeeper, while our main focus is in Orange County, California, we're in what's called the Santa Ana River watershed, and that's a 2,000 square mile watershed that starts off at 11,000-foot peaks and runs down to the ocean in Huntington Beach. And we need to make sure that that entire watershed's functioning for all of those parts to work.
There's also a very large ecological preserve that I know that environmentalists worked very hard to save back in the 70s and 80s, and I was very involved in trying to protect the Newport Back Bay. The area is an important wetland. We lost some of the cliffed areas to housing, but I remember riding my horse around this beautiful area. How much has been saved?
The Upper Newport Bay Ecological Reserve, and it's also a marine protected area now as of 2012, has been entirely saved. There's been a lot of work, as you mentioned, clear back to the 70s on making sure that that area didn't get developed and has been preserved. So it's actually the largest coastal estuary in Southern California, and it is preserved, and we are working to make it better. So as I mentioned for instance, the restoration front, we are doing eelgrass and native oyster restoration in Newport Bay to help bring those species back to their former extent. And there's been a lot of work on water quality, then protecting the marine life through the Marine Protected Area and Ecological Reserve. So that is a real gem in Southern California, and it's something that's been the focus of a lot of work not only by Orange County Coastkeeper, but certainly by many, many others over decades.
But it's so close to the Orange County John Wayne Airport. Is there a lot of pollution being dropped into the bay from the planes?
That was actually something that we looked at. We got together a technical advisory team to determine what type of a study we would need to do to find that out. And it turns out that we weren't really able to differentiate whatever pollution is coming from the planes versus there's also several large freeways right next door and a a lot of industry.
There were some endangered species that were found in that area. Have they been protected, and are they safe?
There are several endangered species, mostly bird species in that area. They're there, and they are doing well, and we are working to protect them more, for instance, through water quality. There's a chemical called selenium that it can be a real problem with birds. So we've worked with the regional board, the regulators, the city, and the county, and we're reducing selenium loads to help protect those birds and their eggs.
The coastal areas of Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Irvine, all of these have a lot of ocean life. If you're lucky, you can see a whale migration going from Mexico to Alaska and back. Is that ocean life okay? Are people overfishing? Are the marine mammals all right?
The answer is yes and no. So one of the things that's really important to recognize is that ocean conditions are cyclical. There can be very long 20-year cycles and even longer than that. And then there's shorter cycles that are more involved with just breeding things and individual species. Overall, our oceans are in much better health as far as species and diversity than they were in the past, especially like in the 70s and stuff, because we've implemented a lot of regulations and policies to try to protect marine life. And a lot of things have really come back, including, as you mentioned, whales, seals, sea lions, and a lot of fish. But we also have problems. So, for instance, with climate change, we're seeing warmer waters. That's changing the species diversity. It's impacting especially the seals and sea lions and that type of marine life because their food sources are becoming harder for them to find, particularly sardines and anchovies and small fish like that, which have moved away from the warmer water. Things are getting better, but we are part of the globe and the larger world, and climate change is having an impact along with other things. Kelp is a particularly important species, a plant species here that supports a lot of marine life in our fisheries. And the warm water, kelp doesn't do well with warm water. We've had a lot of warm water over the past few years, and our kelp forests are disappearing. That's really having impacts not only in Southern California, but all along the coast.
You're also concerned about the marine life and the impact of desalination plants. Why are you opposed to ocean desalination? Because so many people say, well, we've got all that water in the ocean and we need fresh water. Let's just have a plant to change the quality of the water.
That's an important question. So to clarify, we're not opposed to ocean desalination. What we're opposed to is poorly designed ocean desalination plants. So the state of California went to a lot of work to develop a statewide policy on how desalination plants should be built. And there's actually two proposals in Orange County. One in South Orange County, the Doheny desalination plant, is following all of those state guidelines and using the latest technology. It's built where the water's needed and using the proper site, technology, and we actually don't oppose that. So I went down there and spoke that was the appropriate technology, and if they want to build that plant, go ahead. What we are opposed to are plants like the Poseidon Huntington Beach desalination plant that are oversized in the wrong place, using obsolete technology that kills a lot of marine life. For instance, the Doheny plant uses a subsurface intake, so it wouldn't kill any marine life taking in its water. The Poseidon plant would kill marine life from up to 60 miles away up and down the coast. Billions and billions of larvae every year, and have significant impacts on marine life. Ocean desalination does not produce as much water as people think it is. For instance, in Southern California, if we were going to replace our imported water with ocean desalination plants, we would have to have a desalination plant the size of Poseidon, 50 million gallons a day along every 4 miles of the coast.
That's a lot.
It is. It's a lot, and it has a huge impact energy-wise. You can try to use renewable energy, but it takes a lot of energy, and they run 24 hours a day. They have huge impacts on marine life. Desalination is going to be part of our future, and we support that, but we need to do it smart.
I find it odd that companies are still proposing a plant with obsolete technology when, as you said, the technologies have improved, some of it is okay, and yet the companies don't want to adopt it. Is it purely economics and they don't care about the environment and the wildlife?
Yes, because as I mentioned, desalination plants can be built using the better technology. And Doheny isn't the only example of that. There's also another idea for a subsurface desalination plant in Monterey, California, another place that has serious water shortages, by the way. The reason Poseidon wants to build this big plant using obsolete technology is because that's the way to maximize their profit. And they are a for-profit owned by an international corporation, Brookside, and their job is to make money. They've decided they need to produce 50 million gallons a day for them to make the type of profit that they need. The real need is some way less than that, so we're looking at maybe the real potential need going forward the next 20 years being more on the range of maybe 10 million gallons a day, 5 million gallons a day. It's good to have backup, and you want to have options and alternatives, but we don't need that much water, especially in this part of Orange County, where we have a huge aquifer, twice the size of Lake Mead, that we can draw our water from. So we still need to conserve and do all those other things, recycle. We do a great job of recycling in Orange County. We have a world-class wastewater recycling facility that we recycle our wastewater and put it back into our aquifer and use it. We need to do more of that and use desalination where it's really needed and when it's really needed.
You're a member of the California Water Monitoring Council. Are you going out every day and taking water samples, or how do you monitor our water?
My organization in particular, we go out during storm events and we collect water samples from industrial sites. So we're in particular looking for polluters. In the past, we've also done a lot of water monitoring, what's called ambient water quality monitoring, and that's just finding out the general conditions of our water. So back when I started in the early 2000s with Coastkeeper, for the first 10 years, we worked with our local regulators, and we collected water samples from just about every river, creek, and stream in that big Santa Ana River watershed, because they really didn't have any information on that. So we spent a lot of years just developing that general water quality information. How is it? How much is it? That type of stuff.
As a member of the Newport Bay Management Committee, are you working with many other individuals and organizations for maintaining overall plans? Do you have a goal of what the Newport Bay will be and look like in 10 years?
Yes, so we work with numerous cities in the county that are all in the Newport Bay watershed, and we work in a coordinated effort to improve water quality and habitat in Newport Bay. And that's really the aim of the management committee, and we serve the Newport Bay Executive Committee, which is the elected officials there.
Coastkeeper is a name like Riverkeeper of organizations all over the country trying to protect their local habitats and areas. What kind of alliance do you have?
Orange County Coastkeeper is a member of the National Waterkeeper Alliance, which is actually a worldwide group of over 300 keepers.
Back in my high school and college days, I rode my horse down the Santa Ana River, and I was very distressed when the riverbed was paved. The river was straightened and levees were put in. It seems as though the natural ecosystem of a river just was destroyed. The pavement didn't allow the birds to have feeding areas. In fact, they would fly over and eat out of our goldfish pond because they couldn't get their natural food out of the river and the oceans. Is there any plan to restore some of these paved rivers?
There aren't plans for restoration in the Santa Ana River where you're talking about, and that was done for flood control reasons. There's been some horrible floods down in that area, but they certainly went overboard with that. One lucky thing we can say about the Santa Ana River is the vast majority of it is not paved like that, unlike the LA River or some others down here. Most of it is actually still soft bottom and somewhat natural banks. There's still a lot of habitat and wildlife opportunity in the Santa Ana River, but that lower area really got concreted over.
I want to thank you so very much for caring about our coastal and inland water and oceans. We need citizen activists like yourself to help protect our environment because we can't all be an expert on every single issue. I'd like to thank you very much for being my guest.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk.
I have been speaking with Ray Hiemstra, who is the Associate Director of Programs for Orange County Coastkeeper. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again. again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.